What is up, Alex?
What's up, Jason?
You got the Japanese pin there.
Yeah, no, the pen's nice. Thank you for this.
Yeah. No, I love those.
You know what this is?
They're just like, I just like when it makes you want to write because it's just so smooth.
Writing is an interesting thing. There's a different neurological pathway that happens when you're writing something by hand versus like typing it on a computer. So I appreciate taking the time to write things down and think. You know, it creates a better conscious connection for me. But writing utensils are big because when you get a lousy one, I don't know.
I don't know. Like, if you have an idea and then you can't get it on paper, and then it's like one of those crappy free pens that you get, you know?
Yeah, but this in Japan, it's also like a big thing. They're all about really high quality writing utensils. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate the craftsmanship they put into things like this. So
yeah, even in small disposable like rollerball pins like
and they're always about. Did you see the balance on that? The thing's got great balance. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's why I really enjoy it. Anyway,
so I want to ask a question, and I feel like this will be something that people need to understand as far as philosophy of TARTLE. I know you moved from back east,
Massachusetts.
And you started TARTLE. I mean, it was in your brain a long time ago, but the company has its address and physical location here in New Mexico.
In New Mexico, yeah.
What made you choose out of all the states and underlying provinces and all the
places you could have gone? Like, why didn't you go to like any major tech centers or hubs?
Yeah.
Why are you not in Denver, Boulder, the Carolinas? Why are you not in Raleigh or
California,
Boston or Silicon Valley? First of all, they're so saturated. So this was my initial thought. Outside of my personal choice to come here, from a business perspective, if you think about it, if it's so undersaturated in terms of technology startups, it's easy to be the biggest fish in the pond out here. But everywhere else, it's easy to be a nobody.
Yes.
And you're like wasting this time going against this like technologies, for startups, like social, ladder that you have to climb. You got to do all this, political nonsense with certain groups, do this, do that, please these people. Did you go to Harvard? Did you go to MIT? No, I didn't. Well, you're not in, you don't come from a family of money, like all those other things. And typically that's what you find out there. They're all investing themselves very incestual.
Right.
That whole like sort of tech group in those major areas. So from a state of separation, I don't like those type of regimes. So when you look at New Mexico, I was like, well, I don't want to be a small fish in a huge pond out there that's oversaturated. Why don't I just be a bigger fish in a pond of my own here in New Mexico? So in terms of visibility, it made sense to move here. And it's been quite beneficial from the local standpoint of getting to know everyone. It's much more personal out here, business, and you can really know everyone here in this area.
Right.
Like truly know all of these people and they all know you. So it almost raises the bar for the quality of what you're doing because you can't just be like a low quality person doing low quality work and trying to get away with it. It demands a higher quality and a better interaction with, that local business environment. So that's just one sense of it. And then the other sense is when you look at New Mexico, no one ever really talks about this place.
No, it's kind of under the radar. Some people think it's part of Mexico.
Yeah, they think it's part of Mexico. It's not. It's a relatively young state, but it has a rich availability of business resources, which is quite surprising because they want business to come to this state. It's begging for it. It's been an oil and gas state for so long, but they need to make that transition out of a dying age to the new thing, right? They want to have those tech unicorns to come out of here. So they offer a great availability of resources of working with the state, working with the national labs, and the great part about the national labs is that in New Mexico, we have the highest concentration of PhDs. Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
They're all hanging out quiet in the desert, unbothered, right?
I know Los Alamos has the highest concentration of millionaires per city.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Which is where the Los Alamos National Lab is.
Yeah, we have Los Alamos National Lab. We have Sandia National Lab here. But the mobilization of that intellectual capacity, it's very open here. It doesn't feel very pretentious.
Yes.
It's just intelligent people that have, come together to do intelligent, very scientific things. And so you can appropriate resources of those labs in that intellectual capacity towards projects you care about. New Mexico's got an interesting history. It's a place where we've had the Aztec culture has moved through it. We've had the, Native American culture with all the Pueblos. And we've also had the highest technology like the nuclear bomb.
Right.
So the dynamic here is quite interesting, is that when we talk about TARTLE, we have a deep respect for what it means to be a human being and putting our data together to solve problems for the benefit of humanity as a whole. When we have the labs, they're solving very technological problems, and before it was for, wartime efforts.
Right.
And now that those have passed, they're towards, other sorts of, scientific advancements. But butted up right against it is this old, rich culture of what it means to be a human being and be one with the land. So the dynamics here are a lot different than you find than just being in a city. Very rigid, very finite. It lacks, any sort of flexibility. So we have the ability to work and understand the flavor of high intellectual, high funding, all that capacity, and the more depressed areas. When I say depressed, is economically depressed, like the Pueblos, and their history and their understanding of the local area. So you get a better perspective of how humanity is actually blending our evolution of technology, but it seemed to have left, other groups behind that needed to come with it, but didn't get that advantage. And so being here affords us the opportunity of a grander perspective on how we can evolve with the technology that we're creating. And New Mexico offers a wide availability of resources to bring that sort of tech life cycle together. And so that it not only helps the business, but it helps the people here in the local area. And I think that's a very important thing that we need to champion. Tech companies will go, the larger ones where it's just beneficial to them, but without a thought of the history or the people within that area. Like we've seen in New Mexico, because of the generous benefits that the state actually offers for, technology companies, we've seen, Amazon has come in, Facebook has come in, Netflix has come in here. And, they're doing it because they see it from an economic benefit. But for us, it has to step beyond that. It has to step, it's like, well, how is it that we can show here, even in a localized area, the benefit to people that need that benefit and still also benefit the state through being a technology company here in this last hidden gem of America? And I fundamentally feel that New Mexico will be the next major tech center.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It has everything. It has all the availability. It has land.
Yeah.
That's inexpensive. It has great weather.
Yes.
You have no natural disasters.
No, it's a geologically stable place. It's beautiful. And I think the culture of how we as a society are developing and how the workforce is changing, this is the type of environment that the new age workforce is looking for.
Yeah, it's informal, it's laid back.
It's laid back. It's not lazy.
No.
It's just laid back. It is informal. It's not so uptight. People are willing to help one another. And when you're done with work, you can go ski on top of the mountain. And then when you're done with that, you can go mountain biking down at the bottom.
Right.
So there's a better availability of work-life balance. So when we looked at moving TARTLE to New Mexico,
right,
it wasn't just thinking about what's the benefit to us right now, but what's the benefit to other people later that join this and the people that are actually interacting with the company. And New Mexico just had this beautiful mix of, reasons why we should come here, just as beautiful as the mixes of high technology and the old Pueblo culture.
Right. And I mean, there's just things about New Mexico that are absolutely unique and just amaze me. I mean, just alone the weather. Like, I mean, yesterday, what was it? 55, 56, but it was cold in the morning and brisk,
Yeah.
And then the sun comes out and we're at such a high altitude, especially here in Albuquerque, we're at such a high altitude that you can just feel it radiate off your body. Like you're getting this,
even though it's cold, there's like a warmth that comes through you.
Right. And that's something that when you talk about humanity, that's something that we want at Tartle. And I know it's extremely important to you, is to be able to have that flavor of warmth and caring and we're here for humanity. And if we have to fight these battles, we're going to do that, because this is ultimately what we want. We want the best version of you.
Yeah. That culture, just the Native American culture, the protection of the land,
right?
Family, all that other stuff, that carries through into your business.
Yes.
Especially if you're paying attention to it. And those are great values. And I am proud to be here with you and the rest of the people that are a part of Tartle to carry that culture forward and share it with the rest of the world.
It's needed.
Yeah.
Nowadays. I mean, you've gone to Boston, Silicon Valley, you've gone to all these areas, and it's just this shark infested waters, and you look at it, and they've written all these books about, how it's, mainly white male. Yeah. Like females trying to enter into tech, and thank God we've got, what's the main lady that's championed all that from Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah, I think that's
I think that's her name. I want to make sure I pronounce, but she wrote that book and it was amazing. I read it, but it's this whole idea of allowing everyone and humanity to be equal. Like you're not less than.
No.
That we're all together greater than.
Yeah, I have been greeted with more smiles and hellos, and truly a question of how are you and what, like what's going on with you, and people taking the moment and taking that time here in New Mexico than I have anywhere else.
Yeah. And instantly, with your East Coast accent, people know you're not from here.
Yeah. They're like, where are you from?
Right.
Right. I try and suppress it.
Right.
But it comes out when you're talking in that group. But there's just there's a sense of warmth here, and culture and value and art. There's so many good things about New Mexico that need to be carried forward into technology and companies that choose to adopt this area as their home.
Yeah. And I we've talked about this, off camera, but I just don't see myself personally. And I know you've said the same thing, being anywhere else. No,
it's hard, never even thinking about this place, because New Mexico, frankly, doesn't advertise itself very well.
Right.
And, I get it. It's not like, terribly, the wealthiest state. It's not by any means, but they have, there's just, when you come here, it's hard to erase the feelings and emotions and visions and attitudes that you become inundated with and interact with.
Yeah, they have it as the land of enchantment, but people make jokes and say it's the land of entrapment.
Yeah.
Because once you're here, I've talked to people that have moved away from here and came back.
Yeah, because, it is so enchanting. It does entrap you, and it's like, people are like, why would you want to live in such a dull place like the desert? But there's more to that. It's like when you hear, you feel it.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that when people use Tartle, they're not just, just using it. It's like, oh, it's another tech thing. They feel it.
Right.
They're actually truly a part of it. They're a part of the culture that we have infused into it, where it's a part of, preserving the best parts about humanity and channeling that across the globe. And New Mexico just has a lot of those great characteristics that we live in right now that say, this is someplace that I want to have a business.
Yeah. And in this desert landscape of tech, to be that oasis, that, refreshing, that moment where you think, is this real or not? Because we get a lot of comments online about that, what is this? Is this a scam?
Is this legit? Like New Mexico?
Yeah. Like, yeah. And then you want me to sign up for what?
Yeah.
So for us to be that refreshing part in tech where we're saying, we don't need you. We're not looking at our attribution channels and saying, what's our greatest ROI?
Yeah.
And we're looking at, is this helping humanity in the best way possible?
That's correct.
And that's our first filter.
That's the very first thing. If it doesn't meet that benchmark, we don't do it.
Yes.
And if you think about a lot of other tech companies, they go to these major hubs because that's where funding sits. But anybody can fund a crap idea. So it just increases their probability of funding. But from our conscious thought, we're here. It's like, if you're doing the right thing and you're doing it well, the right people pay attention.
Yes.
And they have. And And that shows. And it shouldn't be a function of, oh, here's how it's probably, I got to go here. I'll get the funding for my pizza delivery service, via the phone, whatever idea it is, or scooter rental. Lame. New Mexico is and will be the definition of what it means to have that life-work balance. It'll be the definition of technology in the future like it was in the 40s. I think it's coming back into its own again and will continue to develop into something, quite beautiful, just like TARTLE is developing itself.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm so happy that we're here. I'm excited about the future of New Mexico. I'm excited about the future of TARTLE. And I think at the end of the day, when we look at the approach that New Mexico's taking, the approach that TARTLE's taking, that it's, and I hate to be so simplistic, but it's just good.
Yeah.
It's good.
It wants to evolve.
Yes.
You can feel that urge to be more.
Mm-hmm.
And in other places, they just think they already have more.
Yeah, it's presumptuous.
Yeah. And so when you have that, it almost makes things a little myopic. But here, just watching a sunset, there's nothing ever blocking your view.
No.
It's just infinite creativity.
Just infinite.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great word, 2 words to say about New Mexico: infinite creativity.
Yeah.
The landscape lends to that.
Yeah. And if you ever come here, and I hope people do that, listen to this, you'll feel it.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Just slow down for one moment and just watch everything that's going on around you.
Yeah, go up what's the trail you just did? The La Lusa Trail?
La Luz Trail. It's right over here on the Sandia Mountain Range.
Yeah, go up that trail and get to the top. Prepare yourself, bring some water, and
14, 15 miles.
Take 10 minutes, meditate.
Yeah.
Look out over the city and you'll
feel what we feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.